Hey, it's Wendy, back with more stuff that typically only I like. Impossible Mission was written for the Commodore 64 in 1984 by Dennis Caswell, and then just exploded across multiple other formats, warranting a sequel that actually wound up being released on the NES by two different unlicensed companies. What we're dealing with today is the Master System version, of course, and it's released by US Gold in 1990, and it was developed by Tiertex. This game takes place in a series of towers, each connected by the elevators sandwiched between them. You'll spend the majority of the game searching everything: trash cans, paintings, unidentifiable gadgetry, and more, for multicolored code patterns and computer programs you can use to get around. Searching takes a certain amount of time to complete, which wouldn't be a problem if the game wasn't infested with robots trying their best to kill you, and if you weren't up against the clock. You can die all you want, but it knocks off time. Not good. Not only that, but everything is scattered randomly, and in some cases you'll risk your life only to complete a search empty-handed. Those aforementioned programs are a big help though, especially the ones that snooze the robots for limited time. In some cases, certain things can't be searched unless you disable them. Your other program at hand resets the moving platforms in the room. More useful than you might think, especially if you miss one of your fancy somersaulty jumps. Once you manage to get all the codes, you'll stand out in the elevator using your sub-screen computer to twist, turn, and snap all the code images into solid rectangles. Once they're all complete, you can head through the fairly nondescript exit, if you remember where you saw it, and win the game. Your points are tallied, and that's that. Now, the pertinent thing here is I'm covering the Master System version, which has graphics head and shoulders above all the other versions of the game. That includes the DS and Wii versions with the upgraded graphics, because so much of that shit is unintelligible and this just looks more comfortable. There's also an interesting opening theme, but it seems kind of out of place. However, something is off about the guts of this thing. Almost like there are some checks and balances the AI follows in every version but this. The layout of the tower and the item locations are randomized every time. That's across every single version of the game. But you can reboot this version of the game and wind up in an identical building to the last one you played, which is hella fishy. Not only that, but there are far too many robots that hone in on you, moving faster than your character's speed. From time to time, it feels like the robots have been given movements on a purely random basis, meaning there are inaccessible items more out of chance than by design. I've been playing this game for 30 years, and no version has made me as irrationally angry as this port. Have I kept playing it anyway? Well, yeah, there's this running joke that I'll talk shit about something and then be like, I loved it. And here we are again. I think nostalgia is always going to be a bulwark against flaws when it comes to something like this. Should you get it? If you have a Master System and you've never played this before, go ahead. Otherwise, I guess get the DS one. Now I'm going to somersault into 1993, because the guy was... The 90s were suffocated by European mascot platformers in the wake of Sonic. I remember how hearing Europeans like their heroes to be curious or whatever, and so of course it's easy to project something like that on a sassy animal in the Bart Simpson decade. Cool Spot actually falls in the center of a rare Venn diagram, a cola mascot, and a Euro platformer that's actually pretty fucking good. Developed and released by Virgin Games, Cool Spot is the rare example of a game that probably outlived the mascot itself. More often than not, when people think of the Spot thing, they think of this, and for good reason. Spot as a character is to scale, so there's that little dude in a macro world thing going on. You start on the beach, and the object of each stage is to collect enough non-sentient coin-like spots to unlock the jail somewhere in the stage and release one of the sentient spots. Your guess is as good as mine. What makes this work are the solid controls and charming appearance. You have a soda bubble projectile, and your brain wants to think it's a pretty insubstantial ephemeral projectile, but it gets the job done pretty well. There are issues with the camera and visibility, but not enough to be a deal breaker. The bonus stages are oddly exhilarating. For some reason they remind me of Wizards and Warriors, but it's fun to impulsively bounce from bubble to bubble in a daredevil attempt to get the best possible pickups. The game as a whole has a pretty universal nature. Little kids or elderly people with any knowledge of platform games could pick this up pretty well, and there are enough unbeaten paths for more hardcore folks. If I had to choose between this and James Pond or Mr. Nuts or Plock or Chuck fucking Rock, I'm always going to pick this. Why? Quality control, and none of the lazy sadism most Euro platformers. I'm ready and waiting for hate mail, but I was born on the fucking moon, so you can't expect me to latch on to a genre phenomenon that I wasn't saturated within. This shouldn't be confused with the game that was just called Spot on the NES, which was kind of a Go ripoff that bounced around various platforms under other names until 7-Up got their mitts on it. It's pretty underwhelming. If you're aiming for a 4-player NES game, just get Mule instead. Just eking out the best game of the episode award would be Gauntlet IV. By the time I stop rambling, you'll believe me. For the record, the poorly named Gauntlet 3, The Final Quest, is typically considered to be the proper third game in the series. It's a computer game in an isometric style, as many computer games from that era are. I wanted to point that out because I feel like Gauntlet 1 and 2 are pretty prevalent, so people tend to know what those are, but not 3 or 4. Some people probably consider the third game to be the 1990 release Gauntlet the Third Encounter, a game released on the Lynx that didn't originate as a gauntlet and probably shouldn't count. Gauntlet 4 was the opening volley from the now legendary M2, a game that proves they were an incredible development house from the start. The original version of Gauntlet 4 probably would have been great on its own, but higher-ups demanded they add more. Under pressure, they crushed it without batting an eye and ended up pushing the series in directions it never went before. The standard Gauntlet experience is present. You are one of 4 players in a top-down dungeon. Ludicrous amounts of enemies fly at you, but you have a pretty high health meter, numerical in a Metroid style, but this came first. You have 4 character choices with slightly different weapons, walking speeds, and stuff like that. There's a warrior. Strong and horrifically slow, but he takes less damage. The wizard is hella vulnerable, but has stronger magic projectile usage. The elf is fast as shit, but less armored, and the Valkyrie is the most well-rounded, but I usually pick her because I guess I have a thing for armored tits. The standard arcade mode is present, allowing for 4 players as you try to fight your way through 99 floors. That's fucking ridiculous, but this is Gauntlet 4, and it has 4 different modes as a result. Others include Record Mode and Battle Mode, the latter being a multiplayer deathmatch experience, the former being basically the arcade mode with a convoluted scoring system. However, the meat of the game is now a quest mode, in which you clear out 4 towers in any order, then head into a final tower and final boss battle. There are even little merchants in the main hub of the game, RPG style, and you can recharge yourself from there. You can level up, there are different items, there's a lot of depth compared to the arcade version, not that there's anything really wrong with the arcade version. All this, and I didn't even mention the additional meaning of the 4 in the title. It's a 4-player game, but of course living in the wildly infected United States of Dickhead Land means I haven't had the chance to test it out just yet. I even grabbed a tap and a few extra controllers just in case. The verdict? You'll never need another Gauntlet game again. For real. M2's next project after this was porting Gunstar Heroes to the Game Gear, and that takes guts. Of course they pulled it off. Kinda wild to think it would have been just a tweak sideways to have Gunstar Heroes on the Master System. If you're looking for something more modern that M2 has done, please, please, please get the Sega 3D Classics thing for the 3DS/2DS. Some of the games ported on there are unleashed in their ultimate forms, and it's fucking sick, especially Galaxy Force 2, and Power Drift is fucking wild. I don't know if that's necessarily been ported most anywhere else, at least not this well. There might have been some British PC things, I'm not sure. So I have managed to collapse across the finish line once again. If you're watching these in the order they're uploaded, episode 11 is next, unless I have a tangent or another chop shop or something in between, but you get what I'm getting at. If you're watching them in chronological order, go to episode 10, starting with 11. I think things are going to get a little bit weirder. There are definitely going to be a ton of SG-1000 games on the horizon, which, if I'm being honest, is the platform that made me find out the Mega SG even existed. And I think before long you're going to start seeing Famicom and NES stuff on here, but done my way. Subscribe and like and comment, and when the clock strikes Wednesday, I'll see you again. Later, boners.